I'm not going to mince words. They are taking a taxpayer-funded vacation while Americans struggle. The affordability crisis in America is crippling the American dream. There are solutions to this problem, but we have to be voting to get our way out of this problem. We are not going to solve it if we are not in Washington working, and that is up to the majority in Washington, D.C. to call votes to end this shutdown. Here in Michigan, 13% of households, approximately 1.4 million people, depend on SNAP to keep food on the table. The average household in Michigan gets just over $335 in SNAP benefits per month. Earlier this year, Republicans passed a bill that gave tax benefits to the top 0.1% to the tune of $700 a day. $335 a month for food for families versus $700 a day in bailouts for billionaires. The money that goes to putting food on the table of hungry West Michiganders makes an enormous difference. We're not talking about abstract statistics. We are talking about real people. If SNAP benefits lapse, seniors are forced to choose between buying groceries and fulfilling their prescriptions that keep them alive. Kids miss out on nutritious meals that help develop their still growing brains. They can't focus in school. People with disabilities have to skip meals to make limited food stretch. Let me be crystal clear. Our situation is unacceptable, and I am working every day to put an end to this shutdown and to resume our SNAP benefits. SNAP is not a luxury. It's one of the most effective anti-hunger, anti-poverty programs in this country. It keeps food on the table for working families, children, and seniors. It should never be used as a political bargaining chip. Just last week, I heard from a woman right here in West Michigan who wrote into my office to tell us about her daughter, Jessica. Jessica has disabilities and relies on SNAP benefits to put food on the table. Without it, she and her family will struggle to eat every single day. Just stop and think about that. In a community, in a country with so much, how can we let our neighbors go without? Stories like this are why I am calling on the Secretary of Agriculture to act. Last week, I led my Democratic colleagues here in Michigan in a letter calling on the USDA to draw on SNAP's contingency funds to continue to pay our SNAP benefits. Contingency funds are allocated by Congress to let SNAP operations continue in precisely this type of situation. We have $5 billion in contingency funds available. Unfortunately, that's still not enough to cover full benefits, but it's enough to provide at least partial relief to cover full benefits. It is this administration's job to make sure that that money gets to the people who need it most, gets to the people who the taxpayers intended it to go through when they allocated this emergency fund. We know that the state cannot make up the difference. In a moment, we will hear from some of our state lawmakers who will attest to that very fact. We know that private philanthropy cannot alone make up the difference in these SNAP benefits. Families will go hungry. Here in West Michigan, we know that every person deserves the basic dignity of food on the table. It is a right. Food is healthcare. Food is medicine. This is a basic quality of life issue. I want to thank everyone who gathered here today for your tireless work. I want you to know that I will not stop until this problem is solved. This administration has said it's illegal to draw on these contingency funds to pay these SNAP benefits. That's just wrong. We know that this is what these dollars were allocated for. And this administration has found ways to use emergency funds to pay our troops, which we applaud. They have every day gone against the grain, impounded funds, done things that are not only questionably illegal, downright illegal. So make no mistake, this is not about legality, this is about priorities. And we need to choose to prioritize working families right here in West Michigan. Thank you all. Now it is my honor to turn this over to a woman who needs no introduction, who is tirelessly fighting for us in Lansing, our Senate Majority Leader, Winnie Brinks.
Okay, I feel very tall on this. Great. But thank you, Congresswoman Scholten. While I'm normally delighted to be with this group of people and incredibly pleased to be here at one of my favorite organizations that works in this space, our reason for speaking with you today could not be more dire or unacceptable. There is no positive spin that you can put on this because of an absolute failure of leadership by President Trump, by Speaker Mike Johnson, and Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Thousands of kids and their families will not be able to afford food in November. Last week, the USDA communicated to Michigan's health department that SNAP benefits would see an interruption due to the ongoing federal government shutdown. And here's what that means for us. 1.4 million Michiganders rely on SNAP benefits to afford groceries to feed their families. Nearly 500,000 of those Michiganders are children. Nearly 40,000 of those Michiganders are veterans. And more than 50% of SNAP households include a family member with a disability. And federal Republicans have decided that it's okay for those kids, for those veterans, and people with disabilities to go without. It goes against our core values. And I am so proud that our community is built on a spirit of generosity and that we have organizations like the Community Food Club, like North Kent Connect, and Other Way, and many more that are stepping up for our neighbors. But the federal government is outsourcing its responsibilities and abusing the big-heartedness of people like AJ, Adrian, and Scott, and people like them across our county who are showing up while Republicans turn their backs on us. All of us here know firsthand how programs like SNAP, like ACA credits, and more help keep people afloat. During my time as a caseworker, I met so many people who suffered in silence and who were just trying to make ends meet for their kids or their elderly parents or themselves. They're people who you interact with every day, who you might not realize need support. And if you think you don't know anyone who has needed a hand from public services, you do know at least one, and that's me. When I was 6 years old, my father died suddenly of a heart attack at the age of 40, leaving my mother with 5 kids to raise, one of whom was profoundly disabled and a dairy farm to run. In most countries, we would have been destined for poverty, but with the help of Social Security benefits and later Medicaid and Medicare for my brother, my mom was able to make ends meet. She ran the business while raising all of us on her own, ultimately sending 4 of us through college, something she is incredibly proud of. My brother's needs were met without the crippling costs of around-the-clock medical care that he needed. So while we are here today specifically to talk about SNAP, we are also talking about a changing narrative in our country that these sorts of programs are optional, or worse, that they are waste, fraud, and abuse. The most basic, simple safety net provided by government programs made it possible for all of us in my family not just to thrive, not just to survive, but to thrive. Without these supports, I'm not sure that I'd have had the opportunity to go to college, or that I'd be standing here in front of you as the first woman to hold the job of Senate Majority Leader in Michigan's history. I'm here because I believe that government, when done right, with justice and compassion, can change lives for the better. I know it can, because it changed mine. That's why I serve, and that's why I'm grateful to have fearless champions like Congresswoman Scholten and all of those who are here fighting today. So Congresswoman Scholten, I want to thank you for holding the line. We've got your back, and we are going to keep fighting to keep our country the place of opportunity and upward mobility that it is meant to be. Thank you, and now I want to pass it off to my colleague in the House, Representative Christian Grant.
Good morning, and I just want to say thank you to the formidable women who have spoken before me, but who are also fighting and doing this work. It is so important during this moment. I'm State Representative Christian Grant, and I stand here today because families right here in Grand Rapids, Michigan are facing a very real threat. As costs climb, as wages stall, and as callbacks for interviews never come, the people of Grand Rapids are facing tough choices. Choices that don't have to happen, choices that they are being forced to make. And so much has been said before me, but I want to talk about this false narrative that is being created, that the dollars aren't there, that we have to choose between having compassion and having a safety net in this country. America is supposed to be the greatest place on earth. That's what we say. And none of this is making America great. None of this is making Americans feel like the hard work and the sacrifices that we have all made for this country are worth it. Making people choose between heat for their homes, coats for the winter, or food on the table is not a policy debate. It is about children going hungry. It is about telling people that they are not worth the investment, the return investment, because we each as Americans make an investment in our country. We pay taxes, we go to work, we build our communities, and what we want is a government and people running the government who will return that investment. This is not about someone running a hustle, families running a hustle and getting extra money. SNAP is not a handout, it is a necessary support. Roughly 1/3 of SNAP recipients are working families, those who have earned income, but they just cannot keep up with the rising costs. Another third, as the senator stated, are seniors and those with disabilities, those who are on fixed incomes, relying on Social Security, SSI, or disability benefits. And that final third includes caregivers, children, because we do have children who receive SNAP benefits, children who are living on the street, children who do not have guardians, children who are in foster care, or just people who are temporarily out of work, those who simply need a lifeline to keep them afloat until they are back on their feet. These are the people that we're talking about. We're not talking about the narrative of the welfare queen who's driving a Cadillac and just collecting benefits. These are working people who want to get by. They want to find a good paying job. They want to find something that is going to give their family stability. As it's been stated, in Michigan, this shakes out to roughly 1.4 million people, and nearly 500,000 of them are children. And our national circumstances make this moment particularly dangerous, with unemployment rates skyrocketing, the cost of food climbing, farmers saying they want to be able to feed Americans. You combine that with rising costs for housing, rising costs for transportation and healthcare. All of these things are what families are contending with. Tightening budgets and shrinking margins for error. And we are in a moment where we could take this decision off the table for them. We are in a moment where we can help them. But people are playing politics with people's lives. I've been to Washington, D.C. as a school board member, asking congressional members, hey, do you think we can provide breakfast and lunch for kids? Do you think we can help just take an extra worry, an extra burden off of their plate? And I've been met with the smirks. I've been met with questions saying, do we even have data that food helps kids learn? We need to make a decision about who we are. And we need to stop mincing words about who some of these people are. It is not who I want us to be. It is not who my colleagues are. And we need to start understanding the real harm that this type of rhetoric does. Pausing a proven support like SNAP doesn't just risk hardship, but it guarantees communities in crisis. Working families and children deserve better than this. I call on President Trump and people across the aisle to restore these benefits, to give a safety net, to find a way that, as other politics are happening, to just make sure that families can make it through the storm. This is a preventable failure. Thank you so much to the community, organizations, and members who are coming together and doing the work. This work was already needed, but now, in this moment, it is critical. Thank you so much. Thank you to my colleagues, and I hope that we can find a true solution for the families that we all serve together. Now I believe I'm going to pass it to Scott.
Good morning. My name is Scott Bloom. I'm the Executive Director at the Other Way Ministries. And I just appreciate the opportunity to speak here today, and I'm grateful to Congresswoman Scholten for bringing attention to this issue, because I really don't think that most people understand just how serious a situation that this is. There's just so much going on right now, and it's easy for some people, I think, to hear this headline that there's going to be a pause in SNAP benefits and just think it's another story in the chaos of headlines that is hitting all of us every single day. And for some people, they might not realize just how important these benefits are. I'm sorry. At the Other Way Ministries, we are a small nonprofit organization right here on the west side. We've been there for over 60 or almost 60 years, helping people with various programs and services. And our food pantry has never been as busy as it is right now. We have never seen so many people show up to our doors asking for food assistance. In the last 5 years, we've seen a six-fold increase in the number of people who show up. We used to see just 150 people per month, and we are now seeing almost 1,000 people every single month in a small nonprofit food pantry. And that is just unacceptable. And I want you to forget, anyone listening, of who you think it is that receives SNAP benefits. Unless what comes to mind is just regular, ordinary people. Because that's who it is. And this need has been increasing, and more people are finding themselves in a situation where they cannot afford what they need. We've seen this 5-year trajectory, and to think that right now, in this moment, that we're gonna pause food assistance for all people overnight, people who have no safety net, it's just unacceptable. And it's madness to think that we would do that. So I don't have a political statement. I don't have a political solution. I'm here because I know people, and I see people, our friends and neighbors, every single day who cannot take another financial hit. So what we need is for our elected officials to pause political calculations about federal shutdowns and think about the human side of this and come up with a solution so that we don't take people who are already suffering and drive them to desperation. We're worried in the nonprofit world. Word's already getting out. There are lists being shared on social media where you can find resources as people start to realize, hey, I might lose hundreds of dollars in food assistance overnight. And those lists should be out there with our name on it, and we will show up, all of us, to the extent that we can. But I want to be super clear. The nonprofit food system is not equipped and not supplied and not ready to make up for the gap that is going to be opened up, the chasm that will be opened up if bridge cards are not reloaded starting November 3. That is what we need to have happen. If you're out there and you're a helper, I'm asking you to come forward. If you already support a local food pantry, give them a call, consider an additional donation. If you don't know your local food pantry, look them up. We are going to need your help, and I pray that that help is short term. Thank you. And I'm going to ask Adrian Goodsall to come up.
Right. Well, good morning, and thank you all for being here. Thank you for our elected officials for being here, AJ and the Community Food Club for hosting us. So as my colleagues have already shared, we are deeply concerned about the looming pause in SNAP benefits on November 1. Imagine watching your food prices climb every month, but your paycheck stays the same. Now imagine that the one safety net that you depend on, SNAP benefits, is going to get pulled out from under you. And that's not just a hypothetical, as we've already talked about here. The reality is that more than 25,000 residents right here in Kent County rely on food assistance. And behind every single one of those numbers, it's a parent, it's a child, and it's a senior. And I want to share a little bit about the neighbors in rural communities. So North Kent Connect, I'm sorry, I don't know if I introduced myself, I'm Adrienne of North Kent Connect. Food insecurity is a challenge across Michigan, but rural communities are hit especially hard. 26 of the 30 counties with the highest percentage of SNAP users in our state are from rural communities. So that means fewer groceries, that means higher transportation costs, longer drives just to get the basics. And at North Kent Connect, we see that struggle firsthand. 100% of the clients that we serve through North Kent Connect rely on food assistance. But as we've talked about, and this is especially important to understand, most of them are working 1 job, 2 jobs, often 3 jobs. They're doing everything right, and yet they still cannot meet their basic needs. So as federal support continues to dwindle, the local food pantries like the Community Food Club and the Other Way Ministries in North Kent Connect become the front line. In North Kent Connect, we're proud to be the largest pantry and the only social service agency providing the breadth of resources that we do in rural northern Kent County. And we also distribute to smaller pantries across our region, helping to ensure that no community is forgotten about. Each month, we serve about 500 households, which includes more than 1,500 children under the age of 18. And last year alone, we saw a 28% increase of new households accessing our food pantry. And that demand is only going to continue to grow. And as it's already been mentioned, our families live paycheck to paycheck. They rely on SNAP benefits to fill the gap. And while the nonprofits stand ready to meet the need, there will come a point, if support continues to shrink, that we simply will not be able to fill our shelves. We will not have enough resources. So, let me be clear, as it has already been stated, nonprofits and charitable giving cannot replace the critical support that government programs provide. And I know we've talked about this, and I think it's just really important to remember that among those that are at most risk are our seniors. Many live alone on fixed incomes and face chronic health challenges that require careful nutrition. So something that's already impossible when you have to choose between a full pantry or full prescription bottle, that's the reality for the many seniors that we serve. We see about 825 seniors that come through our pantry each month. And they deserve more than survival. They deserve dignity, connection, and health. So today, I am asking for help. Paper. Need a little spit on my finger. I'm asking for help to our elected officials protect and strengthen SNAP and federal nutrition programs. They are lifelines and not luxuries. To our community partners and donors, stay with us. Every dollar, every volunteer hour, every can on a pantry shelf makes a difference. And to our neighbors, share this story, speak up. Remind others that hunger doesn't just happen somewhere else, it's happening right here, and together we can change that. So I end with saying, let's make sure every family in Kent County, every senior and every child has not just food for today, but hope for tomorrow. Thank you for allowing us an opportunity to share this critical time. And now I'll hand it back over to
Thank you. Thanks to everyone who joined us here today and for your continued work. We convened this press conference today because of the essential need in our community. Elected officials bear the responsibility of solving this problem. I have said since the beginning of this shutdown, everyone has a role to play in this. I raised my hand. That's why I've been going to Washington every single week to try and demand a vote to reopen the government. But we need our elected officials on the other side of the aisle who are in charge in Washington to come to the table to reopen the government. We are not going to solve this problem by not voting on this issue. The House of Representatives has not been in session since September 19, over a month that we have been there taking votes. Just think about that. So please, make your voices heard. Reach out to your elected officials and demand that they convene a vote so that we can continue these essential services. I'm going to ask Senate Majority Leader Brinks to rejoin me up here, and we're happy to take a few questions, and we can also do one-on-ones afterwards if you'd like. So you wanna, I know there's...
Congressman, tell me a little bit about what you say to constituents when it comes time to that first week of November and we don't have SNAP benefits. What are you doing to make sure we have those SNAP benefits?
Yeah, here, we'll step in here. This started taking up.